Hello, everyone. It is Christmas Eve 2025, and I may not look like I'm under the weather, but that's all thanks to some Advil cold and sinus, which is over there in a slightly messy bed. Mm. I've had about 3 cups of coffee, well, lattes, from our Breville, a phenomenal little machine. Uh, Espresso machine and grinder that we found. Well, my sister and my brother-in-law found for free, and it is a great convenience and luxury. And what this interlude is for is to draw a parallel to communication, especially by which the luxury and the quality and the readily available usage and ease of use that the internet and that contemporary handheld devices have brought to the entire world. And Canada's relationship with radio and let's say EF, so electro or EMF or RF, so radio frequency or electromagnetic frequency transmission is deep. It's very, very wide and very deep. It's a very wide band with a long pulse. It echoes across the world. Let's see. So Marconi, National Historic Site in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. Then, of course, Signal Hill in Newfoundland. So then we'll go back to Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell, Scottish-Canadian inventor and scientist. Credited, of course, with patenting the first practical telephone. Okay, National Historic Site is also in Nova Scotia. So then that's it's got a model. I'm looking at the website here. Has a model of one of Canada's first powered self-propelled aircraft. So that's in Baddock, Nova Scotia. A deep dive into the innovative mind of this world-famous inventor. I'm not going to talk about the history too much, but I do encourage you to maybe go down that rabbit hole between the two of them, between Marconi and Graham Bell. Now, the next segue that I want to make, of course, is into Morse code, which is still in usage by a lot of people for the purposes of keeping it alive. And some of the terminology and the Q codes and whatever else, those are remnants of this, I would say, archaic and quite basic means of transceiving information. But of course, everything evolved in telecommunications from Morse code. And if you were alive during the era in which we still used modems over phones, and a modem is a modulator that turns a analog signal, an analog audio signal, into a digital one. So analog to digital, and that's what it means, digit, right? Single digit. And the squelching, the squealing, whatever else, of course, is a means by which was agreed upon in a language for the machines to communicate to each other, and then extrapolate into from a frequency into a coded language, into something that we could understand, that was alphanumeric. So that also goes into the phonetic language and the very basis of the spoken word. So, the world without telecommunications would fall flat on its face. There's a lot of people out there that are so reliant on this, and they have no other skills, that if the internet went dark tomorrow, they would probably starve. They would probably starve. They One of the negative sides, I would say, of this accessibility, this portability, and the compact nature, of course, and then of course the ease of use, is that it can lead you to isolation, not purposeful solitude, but a insular and self-defeating cycle. And I've commented about this before. You can't just expect the world to listen to you just because you're broadcasting. It's the novelty is gone. The novelty factor has disappeared years ago. And of course, this understanding is something that is not encoded into artificial intelligence. So what I'm really saying here is that this is something, and the qualification for this is something that requires you to use your head, because they don't want any old fool broadcasting on the airwaves, because everything is so sensitive to radio frequency propagation, and you'd be very surprised. And this is why some people, they go bonkers, they lose their minds, the tinfoil hatters, because they think that something is being broadcasted via the same resonance as which overcomes the density and reverberates the tiny bones in your ear, which is entirely possible. All you need for a receiver is differential metals, or it says a piezo, if I remember correctly, a piezo transceiver. So something that has a natural resonance. So, for example, quartz, and that is used to tune to a resonant frequency, and then that gets into filtering and so on and so forth, of removing the overdrive or the noise and interference from similar resonances harmonically at the peaks. So if what I'm getting to here is, you have to be listening in order to get the live transmission. And if you're not listening, then it's just going to pass you by. One second, I'm just going to close the door. What's the greatest wisdom that I could say? After I'm about 10 modules into this review, or this this instructional preparation for the actual exam here in Canada. I'm at number 10. I'm not at one third. I'm one third finished. I'm at finished module 10 before doing this video, and I still have 18 modules to go. So what I've done is I finished equipping a station, and it gets into power supplies, antennas, digital safety, basic electronics. But it's funny, of course, if Miss Frizzle actually had an episode on, I think she might have, the little, was it the yellow school bus? Magic school bus. Radio. No, I don't think they did. If I'm wrong about this, I want someone to tell me. But the gist of it is that, it's an easy way to turn something that is binary into something that is full spectrum. And since everything, including solid objects, have a resonance, as I was saying with the skull and the tinfoil hatters, that's exactly why there's so many regulations behind it. And frankly, this is why I think there is a monopoly or a oligarchy of telecommunications providers that charge what they want for the service, because there's no one to compete with them. And because they have this encoding, which you can do, you can encrypt a radio signal to their liking within the agreed upon band of broadcasting. So the channel, right? And I don't like that. I think that the CRTC is on board with that opinion. I don't like how much is charged for this service, when all they really do is provide the infrastructure. Now, any well-to-do person, as I'm demonstrating myself here, can basically, with enough knowledge and very few resources, step their toes into these very deep waters and become a big fish, in which we want to talk about pirate radio upon, say, AM or FM radio bands. And I think that's terrifying to them. I think that's terrifying to governments and to people who that's their only means of making a living. But, again, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That also means don't nuke your eggs either, which is something that you could do. This hobby, or the amateur radio certification, I think it used to be a lot more popular because of the novelty, and because you had a lot of people that were from military backgrounds that wanted to maintain their skill set, and then built themselves a base station somewhere off the beaten track, to feel alive, right? To be out in nature and to be away from the isolating and insulating properties of civilization. Because let's face it, steel and rebar, it ain't cool. It ain't cool, man. After a while, steel and rebar just, or I say concrete and rebar, just ain't something that you want to stay in long term. Because it isolates you from the world itself. And I think the human body has adapted over millennia to pick up these signals and to be sensitive to certain frequencies that would tell us if we're in danger, or if we're near water, or if we could feel when a storm is coming on because of the ionization in the air. And so again, there's guidelines in which for exposure and for which frequencies you can't use, because from science fiction, a ray gun, right, which is basically it's a microwave gun, or lasers, which are super high frequency, or then you get, of course, in the lower bands, which is the microwave, and so on and so forth. Um, if I'm meandering here, I probably am. And again, what was the wisdom? If you can't explain something to a 5-year-old, then you probably don't understand it. Let's put it like this, okay? A radio signal is a wave. It's a waveform, okay? It has peaks and valleys, and it has a frequency. So the frequency is inverse to the length of the band, right? So the wider the distance of the band, the lower the frequency is. The shorter the length of the band, the higher the frequency is. Okay, so that's when you get into stuff like 4 or 5G gigahertz, so that you can transmit and receive data at a reasonable rate, but we could still send data via analog by means of Morse code. That's the basic means of transmitting information. And okay, so then a modem, again, as I was saying before, is a means of turning an analog signal, so a voice signal or an auditory signal, into a digital one, ones and zeros. So 1 being on, 0 being off, right? And that on off, 1 0 again is the basic building blocks that can be turned into something, say, like hexadecimal or alphanumeric, into a language that then gives the computer an order through a string of code to perform a certain function, and that's how you get this video 3,000 miles away. And if you're smart enough, as is being detailed, if you extrapolate from the incomplete data, you can basically take your phone, which is already has the functionality of a Wi-Fi hotspot, and hook it up to your computer. Say you have a generator or something like that, and you can piggyback on other people's signals, and then not ever pay for Wi-Fi again. And I think that's brilliant. I would, if I were to do such a thing, it could be a violation of the legislation, and some people might see it as stealing. But quite frankly, I would say I may or may not do something like this out of experimentation or out of civil disobedience, because it's extortion. It's in the legislation that you cannot charge money as an amateur ham radio operator for the service. You can't charge for it. You can't make money off it. And I think that's really cool. I think that is one of the most altruistic things in this legislation, because I think it was made by people who wanted to protect and preserve our heritage, and not just as something to be taken for granted. Because if you isolate, you don't have communication, then everything snowballs into entropy. And we need radiation, we need sunlight, right? Well, we need this atmospheric radiation in order to calibrate ourselves with the rest of this environment that we've adapted to over millennia. And the amount of radio frequency transmission that we encounter on a daily basis is not healthy for us. And I'm gonna cut it off here at 20 minutes. And really, I just wanted to demonstrate that I have some comprehensive, or that I can comprehend uh, the information that I'm taking in, and that I understand it enough that I could tell someone else about it, and that I could teach someone else about it. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Quite literally. We'll see you in the next video.